All right, everyone, welcome back to our lives. We are so excited to have you back. Just to let you guys know that this streams on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you for those who tune into our lives every other week. This is something that we are super passionate about, and I really hope that you guys always walk away with tons of value.
Yeah.
Okay, for those of you who are sitting there going, well, who are these people? Okay, my name is Kathy Belletti. I am the founder and owner of Motivate with K.A.T, which is an admissions training company online for advisors and directors. I'm also the host of EdUp Career Schools, The Scoop, which is one of the spin-off shows of the EdUp Experience podcast. And I get the opportunity to speak with everyone involved in the enrollment process. And it gives me an opportunity to give everyone a voice. Okay. And with that said, joining me today once again is my sis, Iasiah. So, Iasiah, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Iasiah Gregory. I'm actually the director of admissions at Lincoln Tech, Island, New Jersey.
Boom. There you go. And Iasiah, how long you been in the industry?
OMG. It's like over 25, 26, 27 years of being in proprietary education.
That's
And
what
I'm not tired.
That's what I'm talking about. That part. Oh, geez. All right. So today, what we want to talk about is overcoming toxicity in the workplace because this is a very important topic. I mean, the thing is, this is something that people have been struggling with for so many years. And I think that is just getting worse in a lot of cases. And some people are left saying, okay, what do I do? Do I just stick it through and stuck it up? Should I jump ship and just try to find something different? Change takes more than one person sometimes. So, what we want to do is really talk about some of what contributes to a toxic work environment. And then we're going to discuss how we can actually work through some of these setbacks so that we can make this better, because toxicity, it contributes a lot to your mental and your physical health. So it's very important that we get to a point where this stops. Okay. And in a lot of cases, it may be that people don't even understand that they are in one or that they are the cause.
You're right.
Okay. So let's get to it. What contributes to a toxic work environment? So the first one, bad leadership, lack of transparency, not keeping everyone in the loop with updates and changes. You got to get to the point where you start making your team feel as if they're crazy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How you feel about that, Iasiah?
I definitely agree. It is so important to keep everybody involved. I am so big on transparency.
100%.
Nobody is perfect. Everybody is still learning. We are growing together. If you ask me, I don't even think you can grow properly without the friction. So it's so important to just go ahead and be transparent and be honest and just keep everything out in the open.
Yeah.
Especially when you're building, especially when you're trying to build a team and you're trying to create an environment of trust and things like that.
Absolutely. And you know what is very important when it comes to updates and changes too? Because a lot of times employees, they get thrown off and they get irritated because there's always something new.
Yeah.
Then they never knew about it.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden you make a change and it's like, wait a minute, I'm still trying to catch up. Be transparent with your people, include them.
Yes.
Backstabbing by management or colleagues. I mean, come on. As a leader, no one should be gossiping in any department, especially when you talk about a leader who's gossiping to an employee about another employee.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's just sloppy.
Right.
It is really sloppy. Mm-hmm.
I think some of that, and I think some of that, especially if you're, and I always like to try to talk to people that are like this environment that even we're having this conversation and is really not about judgment, right? Because we're all growing in these positions. And some of us have been through that where we didn't know how to properly lead. But when you are leading and you are trying to gain a healthy authoritative I don't like to say
Mm-hmm.
control, but it is kind of sort of maintain the structure of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Pinning people against each other is only a way for it to backfire. It is going to backfire, and it's going to create such a cancer. You know what I mean? Because it's going to lead to one, that person that you're gossiping with about the other person on your team,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to trust you.
No.
It's a bad way to lead. And then you take your power away in a sense, because now you don't want that person to go back and say what it was that you said. So now you got to play these games, and it's just an awful recipe of toxicity, cancer. It's not healthy. It's not an environment that you want to try to bring about a healthy growth in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What about toxic team members or staff that's not being reprimanded? See, here's the thing. When you have a team who are filled with top performers, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we already know who the toxic person is on the team, the one that's always creating all of this friction between everyone. But here's what happens with a lot of companies. Just because that person is bringing in so much revenue for the
Yes.
company, they're like, man, I'm going to risk my entire team and the integrity of the team just for that toxic person because they're bringing in a lot. But I think what a lot of leaders don't understand is you lose so much more.
You do. You really
So much
lose.
more.
You really lose a lot when you don't check stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it also creates a fear in an environment as well.
Yeah.
It silences people from having a voice. Not only that, but if you're in a higher position, even over the position of a director, and you're a regional, or you're somebody that's in a
Mm-hmm.
higher position, and you do this, what you do is you put everybody else on a lower playing field. And so now people are they're just not working to the best of their potential, because they're stressed out. The environment is not healthy. And like you were saying earlier, it takes a toll on you mentally. It
Mm-hmm.
takes a toll on you emotionally, and it's just not an environment that's going to create healthy fruit. You might have fruit, but it's not digestible. you know it's like a hybrid. You know what I mean? And you don't, so it's like it's so important to everybody to be reprimanded. And not only that, it's important to give people the if you put them in positions, give them the authority to be able to do that without them being able to go over you and say, oh, well, my numbers are this way, or you feel their numbers are a certain way, and you
Mm-hmm.
allow bad behavior to continue. You're,
Absolutely.
you're
It
making a
actually
statement.
it goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with quiet quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we have to understand is our great employees, and I'm saying that the toxic people are the worst employees in the world, right? Sometimes they don't even know that they're the the toxic part
This
of
is
the
true.
environment. But a lot of times, those great employees, they're watching.
Yeah.
And they're watching to see, okay, I'm being reprimanded on something and I'm working my behind off every single day. I'm being compliant,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm following rules and regulations. But then this person over here comes in and does whatever they want to do every single day just because they're a top performer. What happens now is your best employees, they become quiet now
Yeah.
because
That's
they're
true.
watching and they're saying, you know what, this is too much for me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, where they used to give all these ideas, now they're quiet.
Right.
Where they were on the way to the top, now they're going backwards. And on top of that, they don't even care anymore because
And
it's not worth it to
no,
them.
and that's true. And another thing, you made me think about something else, is that
Mhm.
that one person, trust me, cannot carry out a team goal. Oh God, they cannot give you the ultimate goal that you need. So they may do a lot, but at the end of the day, it's more than one. Jordan still needed the rest of the Bulls. Kobe still needed the rest of the Lakers.
There you go.
Everybody has a value. So you know what I mean? So you
Mhm.
just can't disvalue people, because that's what you're doing when you don't reprimand or you don't correct bad behavior. Everybody has to have, and that goes to boundaries. That's setting a boundary, setting something in place that we all have to follow this particular way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number four, manipulation, divide and conquer. Look, if you cannot get a team to do what you need to do just by them respecting you, then you may be in the wrong role. Okay, if you have to manipulate a situation in order to get your way, then you need to reconsider your role as a leader. And I wouldn't even call that leadership, period. It kind of goes back to, trying to gain power by using your title or where you actually stand in the company to get people to do what you need them to do. If you are an amazing leader, let me tell you, your team is naturally going to want to perform because they trust you.
Right.
They trust you with their career, right? And in return, they want to see you win. They want to win. They want the team to win.
Right.
So then you don't have to use manipulation in order to get people to perform.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that. If you're somebody that's how you were taught to do things, just relearn it. Some of us are born leaders. I always say leaders are born, right? They're born. They're going to lead whether they're good or bad. If you got somebody leading the whole team to hell, guess what? They're a leader. They're definitely a leader, right? But they just have the wrong mentorship.
Yeah.
And so if that's something that you're doing and you're unaware of, that's something that you're doing, listen, again, no judgment. Get new mentors, read stuff about leadership. I do that. I have started to do that even more lately, from, coming out of some things. And I've been reading more lately on how to lead, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. In a way that's going to get results that everybody gets to benefit from.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You got to do what works for you.
Yeah.
There was, when I first came into management and higher education, there were certain things that I looked at from my previous leader where I was able to say, okay, that actually works. But then there were certain things that I was taking note to that I would never, ever do, period. Because when you're within a team, you're able to see how the team actually responds to certain things that's going on in the department. So now you can say, all right, that part, I could get with that, but these 5 things I would never do because I'm seeing how the team is actually reacting to it. Okay, so that's super important. And that actually ties into trust. If your team doesn't trust you, you're screwed. And when it comes to manipulation, backstabbing, gossip, like you were saying earlier, hold on. If you're gossiping to me about another employee, who's to say tomorrow you're not gossiping to another employee about me?
Yeah.
It all starts from the top. What about unexplainable turnover? This is something that a lot of people don't really think about. But when you think about turnover, right? Here we go when we go live, right? House phone goes off. Yes, I still have a house phone, folks.
I do too. Listen for the cable.
Thank you. When it comes to unexplainable turnover, sometimes you find that an employee will start on a Monday and they're like, okay, so I saw 10 people here and 5 of them are gone. But then all of a sudden you have another set of people that start and then it's like, okay, where did the other half of the folks go? Sometimes when you're talking about an environment where there's constant turnover for the wrong reasons, it's a problem. Yeah. People don't just up and leave for no reason. There is a percentage of people who want to go on to the next level. They feel like they're topped out. But when you see this constant turnover and it's like, wait, how come I didn't get the memo?
Right.
Because peeps are leaving and I'm still here. Eventually it's going to start to get to the employees.
Right.
Still left over.
Yeah. And that's both sides, whether the turnover is everybody's leaving or the turnover is you're firing everybody, right? Because at the end of the day, you really can't gain any trust or gain any rapport building with your team if you constantly have a new team or if people are constantly afraid that they're going to be, they're going to be gone. That's not something you can really build on them to kind of try to help them get past some of their hurdles, because it's like, okay, you got this amount of time to get to this goal. If you're not there by this particular time, you're out. I've worked for companies like that where it was very difficult to build a rapport because the next thing you know, they're telling you to let somebody go. So that's a very toxic environment. It's just not somewhere where you can put your hat down and really, do what it is that you do and love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, tying into having employees that are bringing so much negativity to the environment, how about when management knows
Mm,
what's going on within the department? When management knows that it's probably those one or two people that's destroying the entire environment and they're turning a blind eye to it.
mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you know something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
As a leader, and the thing is, you don't always have to let go of toxic people. Train them to be better.
That part.
Sometimes people take out their frustrations because they're like, you know what, I'm trying to get my footing. Nobody is helping me. I have no support here. So sometimes people are directed to behave a certain way
Mm-hmm.
because there's nobody that's actually backing them.
Right.
So train them. But here's the key. If in fact you realize that that's not working, now it's time to cut the cord.
Right.
Okay, now it's time to actually let them go.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about lack of grace?
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. What
Yeah.
I've noticed sometimes, it's like as an employee, you can never make a mistake.
Mm-mm.
Right. And when that happens, it just beats on people's self-confidence. It's like,
Definitely.
all right, number one, if you weren't even trained on something, that is not at the fault of the employee. Okay.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, if in fact you are trained on something, right, and you make a mistake at some point in time, you have to be able to give this person grace and say, all right, you screwed up, big what? Nobody is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's actually move on at this point.
Absolutely. And those are all of those are learning. Those are times to teach. Those are really good teachable moments. When people, like, I always say, I ask a lot of questions. I make mistakes all the time. I'm transparent about it. I go back, I apologize, or I'll be like, you know what, that was my fault. You said that and I didn't, you know what I mean? I'm
Mhm.
always going to acknowledge that I did make a mistake,
Yeah.
right? But it's very important to use those moments. The right coach, the right leader can use those moments to teach. Those are such
Yeah.
teachable moments. Grace, giving people grace is such a moment to teach, because what that does is that lets somebody know that you fit. First of all, you understand
Mm-hmm.
you're not holding them to some type of unreachable, perfection, and that you really want to help them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you really, it's how you handle the mistakes that a person makes. Now, if it's a mistake that's a big mistake, well, those type of mistakes require different types of you know situations. But if it's like starts or something non-compliant or anything like that, you have to give room for people to grow. You don't grow without making mistakes. You
Yeah.
don't grow. That's not how you grow.
Absolutely. And it makes people not want to learn
Mm-hmm.
anymore anyway, because it's like, all right, so I screwed up, but now it's like, well, teach me. If in fact someone screwed up, even if it's a manager, all right, make sure, did they know this information?
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that you kept telling them continuously and they're still getting it wrong? Maybe they're not meant to be in that position, right?
Right.
But wonder if they were never even told, or wonder if they were told one single time in
Right.
passing and they messed up. At what point in time are you going to say, all right, come on, let's get together and
Yep.
let me retrain you on this? The
Yes.
policy has changed. Let me actually bring you up to par. Holy crap, I totally forgot that. I didn't even tell you that we changed the policy.
Yes.
But people are not going to be able to grow if you don't forgive them.
Yes.
You always want grace, right? But at
Yep.
the same time, you have to learn to give grace
Yes.
also, and
Sure.
that's super important. And
Yes.
I can't stress that enough.
And you know what? Also, just like create an environment of communication. Like create an environment where people don't feel stupid about asking questions.
Yes.
Right? Even, some mistakes can be avoided if the environment was conducive enough for a person to ask a question. So if
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable, or I feel like your leadership is going to be like, oh, I'm always got to tell you this over and over and over again, you're going to get people that don't ask questions. They're
Mhm.
going to try to figure it out, and they're going to make mistakes that they don't have to make.
Yeah.
So it's very important to create an environment that allows for people to be able to ask. Like I was talking to a rep not too long ago, and she's so funny. I love her. She's so funny. And I'm telling her how to do something. She says, "You know what, Aisha? Can you just show me what that looks like?" You know what? I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, she challenged me to say, okay, you show me how to do this, sit in my interview and show me how, let's role play. She was asking for it.
Leadership.
Show me what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
When you have people like that are asking you questions and they want to learn, you have a superstar. You have an excellent employee. You have somebody that cares about not just their job, but they care about the people. They care about the people around them. They care about the job. Those are good people. Don't overlook the question askers.
Absolutely. Those are
and create an environment for them to be able to do that.
Boom. And there you go. Lack of boundaries. So here's what's been happening for a long time. So you may have managers, who expect employees to work just as long as they are. You may have executives who feel that a manager needs to work 24 hours just because you do. Sometimes you have to be able to put these boundaries in place. If in fact you're going to give somebody vacation time, vacation means that you're not around. You're not around. Okay, that means that I am taking a mental break from this. And you have to be able to give employees that space to feel like it's okay to take a break. Mm-hmm. You cannot expect people to be on vacation or spend time with their families, but it's like you didn't check the email for the last 5 days. What's happening? You didn't check in on your employees. Well, that's what you're there for, because I'm on vacation.
Right.
And it's not right, because if that's the case, why are you giving PTO in the first place?
That part.
Okay, if that's what's expected from your employees, you want to work 24 hours, kudos to you. Okay, but you cannot expect, and there's employees out there who don't mind going over and beyond, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but to expect people to work 16, 20, 24 hours just because that's what you decide to do with your life, that's not fair. Okay, people have to have that mental break.
I can do a cartwheel. If I knew how to do a cartwheel, I would do a cartwheel right now, because that is 100% fact. And I have to say, for those that are watching that are new, right? I always have grace for people that we're still growing. Mm-hmm. I was like that in my earlier days. Yeah. But I wanted people to work like how I work, and that was me just projecting, like, that was me thinking I was the best, and it's my way is my. But you know what? After going through some things and being a director and not and having to work more hours than I really wanted to work, mm-hmm. it's a sure, fast way to burn out the people that work for you. Yeah. It's unfair, like you said, to give PTO time, give this, and then the people can't take it. You have to allow people the mental space to be able to come back refreshed and ready to do it again, especially in this industry, because it does not stop. It's an ongoing thing. It's like, all right, we just did one start, next. It's barely any time to breathe. Yeah. So you have to give people that space, even if there's not vacation. After a start, you got to give a little day, a little bit of time to, like, okay, give people a time they worked really hard. Mm-hmm. They pushed out their goals. You got to give that moment to breathe. It's important. Otherwise, you're going to burn out the people you're working for. And guess what they're going to be doing? They're going to be looking for a job.
Yep. And in addition to looking for a job, social proof is very important when it comes to companies, when it comes to schools. I think everyone has experience going online and seeing bashing comments about your company.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's just for that reason. I don't know if you saw, there's this video, I can't remember if it's on TikTok or Instagram, but this guy is going through an exit interview with the company. And he's like, oh my gosh, it was amazing working for her. I love all of the staff. And they're like, thank you. Then what he's really writing on Glassdoor is, this is the most toxic environment you'll ever apply here. You would be surprised how your employees actually feel about how they're treated in your company.
Yeah.
Be very careful, because one bad review can can break your entire company. So be very careful how you treat people. Ooh, gaslighting. So this is a term that I have been hearing circling for some months now. So gaslighting is when you have a manager who sets something in place. Let's say, for instance, someone tells an employee that they want a project done a certain way, because these are the processes that's put into place. So that employee goes ahead and follows instructions, does what's exactly asked of them. But then that manager later on, when they receive the results, they totally forgot about the instruction that was given, and they start going off on the employee, forgetting that that's exactly what they told them to do. Instead of being a leader and saying, "Oh my gosh, I apologize. I gave you the wrong instructions. It should have been done this way." You just switch up the rules. You just make up a new rule on the spot. Now that employee walks away feeling defeated, lack of confidence, and a little crazy, because they're thinking, wait a minute, I heard what I heard though. I actually wrote it down. But now this person is telling me that I did this totally wrong. That's the thing when it comes to leadership. Part of being a leader is saying, I was wrong. I totally messed up. I forgot. I am sorry. And that's how you really gain the trust of your team. Super important.
And you're also teaching them, how to lead. You know what I mean? A lot of times in our positions as leaders, a lot of times we're building other leaders, whether you really realize it or not. But how you conduct yourself as a leader it paints a picture of how people sometimes see leaders. And it also, if they're going to be a next leader, you want to show them how this is done. So when you're able to humble yourself and you're able to be transparent and you're able to say, I'm wrong, they're not going to struggle with that. Exactly. We're not going to struggle with saying, you know what, I missed that. I got that all wrong. You know what I mean? Because they know I'm going to do the same thing. Like, oh, girl, I'm so, you know what? I did say that. And you know what? You're 100% right. And you know what? This is the way we're going to do it. This is the way it should have been done. But it's very important when you're wrong, say you're wrong. It's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to lose anything by saying you're wrong. We all make mistakes. We're not always 100% right.
There you go.
And if you think you are, you already behind the 8 ball anyway.
Here's the last piece to that. Communication, the way that you communicate. We always hear about, it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. Okay. And you have to be careful as a leader to watch what you say to your folks and watch the way that you deliver information to your people. Okay, it should never be an environment where you treat people based on how you felt when you woke up that morning. Okay, one day you're peachy and you're like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. And then the next day, because you probably fell off the other side of the bed, it's like you're just coming at people. Sometimes words stick with you. And it doesn't matter how strong you are as a person. It doesn't matter how much, affirmations you say to yourself in the morning. Oh my gosh, I'm amazing. I'm great. But based on what people say to you, it starts to get here. And sometimes it ends up here. You have to be very careful how you're delivering information to people, because also if you're not approachable, your employees are not going to want to come to you to ask any questions or to ask for any type of direction. Check what you are about to say before you connect with any person on your team. I don't care how bad it is. You got to be able to develop a plan and say, you know what, let me make sure that I'm going to deliver this the right way. And that goes into how we're actually going to.
I want to piggyback on that a little bit, because even as you're saying that, right, I was convicted a lot of times, because I'm going to tell you guys, I did that. I was strong. I was stern. Sometimes my words were curt, just a little curt. I had to work. That's something that I literally had to work on. I had, managers over me tell me, Iasiah, sometimes you're just your facial expression, and I had to be intentional. So some of us, we have a way that we are where our face, something's wrong with us, and we show it on our face. And That's how we're made. We're made up, right? But there's nothing wrong with when somebody brings it to your attention. It's an area to work on. So again, I'm always going to say this: no judgment. It's just an area. It just shows you that's an area that we have to work on. So you choose you be intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
Be intentional, like Kathy was saying. When you're going to talk to somebody, think. And it takes you having to be intentional on purpose to do that. So I just wanted to take an apple out of that bag, because you know what I mean. I mean, it is what it is, right? We're learning.
Absolutely. And it's so true, because no one starts off perfect, right? I remember my first rodeo as a DOA, like over 10 years ago. I learned very quickly that when you go into a brand new school, all right, as much as you see this school in Maine, and like, you have to, as much as you don't want to, my brand new leaders out there, you have to take a step back, and at least give yourself 2 days to really look around, as much as frustrating as it is going to be, to look around and just see how that company operates. Even though you already have your list prepared, sit back and don't say anything. Just observe. When I went into my first school, my first few hours, I'm like, this can't happen. This is that needs to change. And it's because we already knew how things were supposed to be. But I'm not gonna lie. When I went into that school, I gave absolutely nobody grace, because I'm like, what is happening in this building?
No, right? But that's 100% true. And I gotta piggyback on that. I just thought about some stories, and you cannot be a new look, you're the outsider coming in. So this is the move. You cannot go in there just saying, this is how we doing it like this. You are going to have a insurrection going on. You will have an insurrection going on. So you really do have to assess the situation, find out what's going on, ask them what they expect from you. Be candor. It's nothing wrong with having candor communication, but take a minute before you go in with your notebook ready to change you want to change the whole name of the company. You know what I mean? And it's not going to happen like that. So for sure, I got about 10 apples out of that bag. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yes. So now let's talk about how we can actually fix some of these situations. Yes. And some of this stuff we already touched on, but number one, as a leader, you set the tone. So you have to lead by example. Yes. Stop throwing around your title and your position as a form of intimidation. Be approachable. Yes. The only way that your team is truly going to be able to learn and build and be passionate about being better is, one, if they trust you, and two, if they feel like they can come to you to actually get support and help.
Agreed. And when you're in that position too, see who your leaders are. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times you come in, you have leaders that are already like, they're leaders already. So you want to get with them and hear what it is they have to say and all that type of stuff first. Because people, they're a lot of times they're ready for change too, but they want to make sure are you there to help them with this genuinely?
Yep. You're right. Number two, turnover can actually be a good thing. Okay. So like we were saying before, if you have some folks on your team that's just not getting the memo, that's not how we do things here. Okay. And we need you to fall in line, follow rules and regulations. No one is bigger than anyone else on the team. If you take the time to sit with that person and reset the expectations and they're still not getting the memo, now it's time to cut the cord, let them go. Very good. Okay, so change out those people. There are thousands of people in this world who are looking for an amazing opportunity, who can really take your business to the next level. Yes. Okay, so don't feel as if you're stuck with somebody just because you think they're a high performer. Yeah. You may be able to bring someone in who you can train and sculpt from the bottom up. and they
Yeah.
have the it factor,
That's
they
it.
have the passion, they have
Mhm.
the heart to succeed.
Mhm.
And guess what? Now that person brings everyone up to their level.
That's
And now
right.
you have an entire team of winners. Okay,
Yeah.
so cut the cord. The third one. All right. So a lot of companies have standard operating procedures, right? But at the same time, with everything that you do, especially as a leader, if you're going to implement something new, just make sure that it's written down where everyone can actually find it. Okay. It's not going to be fair if all of your employees are on a totally different page. And make sure that within your company, there's just not one person that's left to,
Make
create rules for an entire team or for your entire business, because
Mhm.
that means that that one person is controlling everything
Yeah.
and they can switch it up at
That
any point in
quick.
time. And now no one knows what's happening
Mhm.
because now we only have one person where all the decisions go through. And that can be very detrimental for your entire organization.
Mhm.
All right. So make sure that you have some type of policy or you have some type of handbook where everyone can refer back to when it comes to all rules and regulations.
Mhm.
That should not be left up to one single person because it
Yeah.
goes back to the gaslighting, right? If in fact that person is like, oops, my bad, they can easily just switch it up and
Right.
then make everybody else seem like they're nuts. Open door policy. This is something that you always talk about. I know
Yes.
that you're really great with having your team just feel freely to come to you and talk
Yes.
about whatever they need.
Yes. Very important to allow feedback, whether you like it or not. And sometimes you are the leader, but you don't have it all. So your
Mhm.
team actually can be of great help to you. Example, if you're not that great with computers and you're not as computer savvy and all that type of stuff, and you got a team member that is just a super duper person with the computers, why would you not want to hear their feedback? They're going to make printing reports out better for you. They're going to
Mhm.
make you, it's going to work together, so instead of fighting with that person because you want control, come together, give them, delegate. I love delegating. A lot of the I've learned. I used to couldn't stand delegating. I used to feel like I needed control.
Mhm.
No, delegate so everybody can take pride in their part. And
It
and,
makes it
and
easier
let
for you.
let them have it.
Makes it easier for you, and it builds
Yes,
your confidence too. You're supposed
yes,
to be, developing the next set of leaders.
yes. That's right.
How about making employees feel like they are a part of the decision? I see so
Mhm.
many times in different companies that there's just a new decision every single Monday, and after the team just got used to a new way of doing things, it's like, okay, so we have to reverse this now. And then you expect them to get it just like this. Some of these things can be decided amongst everyone. Ask your team for
Agreed.
their feedback.
Yes,
A lot of people on your team have so much to offer, and they
yes,
may come with something really great that you never even thought about.
yes.
And you're like, actually, that's better than my idea. Thank
Yep,
God that I actually asked for
that's
feedback.
right.
Employees perform better when they feel as if they have a sense of belonging. We always talk about students want to feel as if they have a sense of belonging, but what about your employees? It's a lot of employees that feel like they're outsiders and they're supposed to be a part of a community, right? So let them feel as if their voice actually matters. And
Mhm.
you'll be surprised. All of a sudden, you start getting people coming out of their shell and they're thinking about all these different ideas that can take
Yep.
your company or your organization to the next level.
Yes, yes. Agreed.
All right. Honesty. That goes back to trust. Okay. Be 100% honest. Look, everything when it comes to leadership is not always about candies, rainbows, and unicorns.
Mm-mm.
Okay. There's always going to be a time where you have to have some tough conversations. And your employees appreciate when you are 100% honest. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember this, Aisha, but we always used to use the build, break, build method.
Oh,
Right?
yes,
So
yes,
you build
yes,
them up
yes.
first.
And
You
then,
talk about all the amazing things
yep.
that you were doing, and then you break them. Okay, this is the area of opportunity. All right, this is where I think we can improve, and I'm going to help
Mhm.
you. And then at the end, you build them again because
That's
the
right.
last thing that they need to hear before they
It's a
walk away
build
is
up.
that they did great.
Yep.
You never want to end a conversation on a negative note, because even if your employee is amazing, they're not going to feel that way, because the
Yeah.
last thing that their leader said was something that they were not doing.
Yes. And
Okay.
that's so good. That is so, and that took me a little bit to learn that, but it works amazing, because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, everybody wants to be appreciated. So even when you're telling somebody they're off, and even the fact that they are taking your feedback, I will say, you know what, I really appreciate you taking in the feedback. I
Mhm.
appreciate the fact that you take the time to note, always compliment the things that they are doing well,
Mhm.
because I'm going to tell you, all they're going to do is do it even better. It's almost like, this is a crazy analogy, but I'm just going to go for it. But you're married, right, Kat? And
Uh-huh.
so a lot of times, and I used to be married, and even with the men, like a lot of times with women, we're like, oh, you're not doing enough. But when you tell him how awesome he is, babe, thanks for, even though
Oh.
he might have put that floor down wrong, even though there's a little bit of correction that needs to happen,
Mhm.
you don't have to bring it like that. Tell them how much you appreciate the fact that you come home and you do this and you stay late. And I love the way you are with your student. And I appreciate how you said that. Every little thing, notice. If you walk by and you hear them doing something that you taught them and they weren't, notice, girl, I love that phone call was good. You got this. I love the way you're handling your student. All you're going to get is better results. They're going to want to do it more.
Absolutely. And look, let's be honest. Sometimes there are some folks on the team where you can't find nothing positive to say, And I used to tell DOAs all the time, because they would say, well, how I'm supposed to use the build break build method? I can't think of anything. I'm like, make something up.
Right.
Okay, if you got to talk about this person's shoes, or you know what, your hair is amazing, I love the way that you present yourself, make
Something.
sure that you think of something positive to say. You cannot go into a meeting and just hitting on someone, and it's like, well, you know what, this is what you're not doing, this is what you're not doing, this is where you need to improve. You can't find something to say, compliment their hands, something. You have to find something positive
So
to say.
true. So true.
Everyone wants to be built up.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to feel as if they're doing something great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even some of the most toxic folks on
Yeah.
the team. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's something left to be said
Yeah.
that's great about everyone.
Everyone.
So we got two more. Number one, meet with your employees. Make sure that you set aside some time to have a quick team meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And one-on-ones are super important. So even if you're going to do your team huddles or you meet once a week, it's very important to bring the entire team together.
Yes.
Your team, they feed off of each other and they want to hear from each other.
Yeah.
A lot of times they just don't want to hear from you all the time. Okay. Your team members like to learn from their colleagues.
It's true.
Okay. So bring your team together. It's a point of excitement. You get the energy and the blood flowing. But also that one-on-one time with your employees is going to be very important, because you have to get to the point where you understand where that person is. Where's their mindset? Do they even like working here anymore?
Mm-hmm.
What are their goals? They may want to go to the next level in their career. And guess where you are? You are in the perfect seat to actually help them get there.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that. That's so good, because even when you do those one-on-one meetings, those really are the times to find that out. But when you do find that stuff out, now you know how to manage them too. It gives you insight into where they feel they want to go. So when you do have to have close accountability, right? Remember we talked about that close accountability flash mic or whatever. Well, I'm on top of you. I tell them all the time, yeah, I'm riding you. I am, because I know what you told me you wanted to do. I heard you. And guess what? You have every potential to do that. So yeah, I'm on you. Until I see the best version of you that you said you wanted to be, let's take the ride.
I love that. I love that. And you know what? They're going to appreciate that too, because now they realize that, wow, she actually heard me. Okay, so she's writing me because of my words. I told her that I'm trying to get to a certain level, and this is how you do it, unless that's no longer true.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely love that. The last thing, think about what you're going to say before you say it. So we spoke about this earlier when it came to communication and delivery and the words that you use and how you present yourself. Look, I'm a person that people always tell me that I speak with my face. Okay, I can't help it, right? But at the same time, when it comes to delivery, sometimes, like you spoke about being intentional,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be intentional in your delivery. Certain people may do things that really throw you overboard, but you have to be able to take that time, that 5 minute, and say,
Yes.
I have to be very careful what I'm about to say and how I'm going to present this. Because the
Yes.
bottom line is, we don't know what that person is going through either.
Right.
I always talk to advisors about being very aware of how they speak to students, no matter how they address you, because you don't know what happened before that person picked up the phone and called your school.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with your employees. We're
Yes.
people, right? Your employees are people. You don't know what happened before they came into work
That's
today.
right.
And here you go calling them into the office and reprimanding them about something. And now you just took them to a place where they really didn't need to be. If you would have taken 2 minutes to sit back and say, let me think of how I'm going to deliver this. It's the same thing as when you say things to people when you're heated and when
Mm-hmm.
you're angry.
Mm-hmm.
It works the same way when it comes to business. You
Yes.
cannot have a conversation with any employee if you are at a 10.
So true. And a lot of times just piggybacking on that a little bit, remember when you're being one way to remind yourself to be intentional, remember the goal. What's the end result?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're in that moment, and there are times that we should be in the moment. But then if you have a goal, especially as a leader, you have somewhere to go, there's something you're trying to get to, you
Mhm.
have to create dialogue, or place your dialogue in a way where you're going to get the results that you want. So if you know that you go into somebody and you might have a intention on going in there to say a certain thing, and you walk in there and they're all disheveled, that's not the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Timing is everything
Read the
as
room.
well. It's, timing is everything about when you deliver messages too. So part of being intentional is remembering what your goal is. Is your goal to really get that person to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
Is your goal that you really don't like them, you tired of them anyway, and you want to just hurry up and get, what is your real goal?
Mm-hmm.
And search yourself for that, because when you do that, trust me, your creativity, all of that's it's gonna come out in the way that it's supposed to come out.
Absolutely. Look, I do a lot of training meetings, and a lot of times my agenda just goes totally left, right? Because I may have something that I want to talk about, and then based on what I'm sensing from the team, based on something that I know that they need, my training goes a totally different direction.
Yes.
Sometimes God chooses us to go off course, and
Yes.
that's 100% okay.
Okay.
Because if you're saying that you're here to serve, that means that you need to be able to feed off of the energy that your
Yes.
employees are giving you and
That's
say,
right.
you know what? This is what I had planned, but this is what they need
That's
right
right.
now, and that's the direction that I have
Yeah.
to go. And I think that's what happens. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of leaders are not in tune with their people, and if you're not in tune with your team, how can you possibly lead them?
Yeah.
You don't know what they want, you don't know what they need. And when it comes to training, I love to ask people, okay, so what do you want to be trained on?
Mm-hmm.
We go by reports, we go by stats, and we're like, okay, so this week this is exactly what they need. But at the same time, you would be surprised if you ask people on your team, so what do you want to work on? They may have an entire scroll, like, this is where I've been struggling. And they may have 10 items
Yes.
on their list. That's where they want to grow. And a lot of times that's exactly where they've been lacking, and you didn't even realize because you're on your own agenda.
Yeah.
The majority of the
Yeah.
time.
And
Okay.
always remember, there's more than one way to get home.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I can take the parkway, I could take the turnpike, I could take the back roads. I'm still going to get home.
I love that.
And so that's basically what, Kathy is pretty much saying. Like, there's so many ways to train and get people to places you need them to be if you're in tune with what's going on with the environment. Even in tune with yourself to know this is not the day for me to have this conversation because I am already triggered. So what I'm going to do, because I'm triggered, I'm going to stay away from that. We'll talk about that in a day or so, because I know I'm going to get aggravated. So it's also knowing your own self, having your own, self-knowledge to know when it's good for you to be talking, right? Yep. And for when you to be reprimanded, it might not be the time for you because it may come out wrong. So we need to understand ourselves and the things that we're around. So intuition is really awesome.
Absolutely. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
I would just say for all of those that are still learning, and you might be a little toxic-y, right? You just might have a little toxicity going on. I was toxic at one time. Look, I'm not ashamed because I'm not there anymore, right? So that's why I can talk about it. But if you have a little bit of toxicity in your system and you some of these things apply to you, no judgment. No judgment. Just change. Just take a U-turn. And rethink about what it is you want to do, where you want to be, and what type of leader you want to be. Because the type of leader that you are the type of leaders you will produce. And they will go and work for other companies and cause toxicity. So, my thing is just, ask for help, read things. I mean, I'm not a big avid reader like I did, in my earlier, but of lately, I've been looking at things that deal with me helping myself to be better, because when I'm better, everything around me has to get better. Yep. So I would just say, look within, make sure your motives are right, make sure you're doing things for the right reason, make sure that you want to be a good leader and you want to be fulfilled and you'll last longer, so I just want everybody to be encouraged. I never want anybody to leave my sister's cast not feeling encouraged. If this is something that you are passionate about, taking trainings like this will help you. And it's little by little, you know what I mean? But, do what you got to do. You got this.
There you go.
Keep growing.
And aren't we all?
Yes.
I think sometimes what happens is that once you get that title leadership, they think it automatically means you have to know everything. Okay, so you got to stay at the top. You have to make sure that you're always in a position of power and you have all the answers. And that's not necessarily true.
No.
Part of being a leader is being able to say, I don't have the answer, but I know exactly where I'm going to go get it. Part of being a leader is being able to say, we're doing this together.
Yeah.
Right? We're sitting at a round table. Okay, there's nobody that's sitting at the head because we are in this together. Yes. But then most importantly, what makes it so much easier for you is for you to picture yourself in the other person's shoes. How do you want to receive information? Yes. How do you want somebody to reprimand you, even if you know that you did something wrong? You have to be able to turn it around and say, if somebody was to approach me this way, because some of you leaders know out there that the way that you speak to some of your employees, if somebody was to speak to you the same exact way, you going off, you're going to another level.
That part.
You have to be able to say, how would I feel if somebody actually said that to me? How would I feel if somebody approached me in that type of tone?
Yes.
All right. Check your attitude, check your tone, check your words, your language, your vocabulary before you approach anyone. But then you have to also be here for the right reasons. Some people get into leadership just because they want to be able to boss people around. That is not what a leader is. Okay. A leader actually walks side by side with their team. And we want you guys to realize that being a leader is not always going to be 100%. All right, so we're going to the stars. No, there's the other side to being a leader. A leader, you're going to have some tough conversations. Your team is not going to like you some days.
They're going to be misunderstood.
They're going to be misunderstood, right? You're going to be talked about. Everyone is going to be against you at some point of time. But if you know that you're making a decision because it's the best decision for the team and your organization, they're going to come around. they're going to see that, all right? But just make sure that you give them an opportunity to speak their piece.
Yeah.
Even if you know that you're going to make their decision in the end, right?
That's
At
true.
least they felt like, you know what? At least she came to me and she asked my opinion, and be able to explain how these changes are going to benefit your organization.
Mhm.
A lot of times people give pushback because they don't understand, because you're just throwing out demands and it's like, but
Mhm.
I don't get it. But the minute you're able to get your team's buy-in, now you have a group of folks who understand, and now they're going to take your organization to the next level together.
Yes.
All right. So just keep
Yes.
that in mind. It's a learning game for every single person. We don't
Everyone.
expect anybody to be perfect. But the reason why we brought this information to you is so you could be able to check yourself and say, holy crap, that sounds like me.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
or you may be in a situation where you're like, you know what, I don't see a way out, and I think that this is no longer worth my mental and physical
Yes.
health. And it may be the time for some of you to leave the situation and go on to something different. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, sis, for joining us again today. Remember that this is streaming across YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We cannot wait to see you guys again. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.